Hello my friends. Those who have followed my channel might remember that I bought a new boat just a few months ago. And this story is about how we brought this old lady home. The boat had been sitting on the hearth since 1995 in Stockholm, in Sweden. And our destination, Tallinn, would be more than 200 miles away, if we came directly. But we decided to make small stops on our way. But later about this. The boat was already launched by the previous owner when we arrived. But as he had started many repairs during these years, most of the deck hardware was removed by him. So we had fit back everything that was needed for basic sailing, including traveler, winches, cleats, etc., etc. We also had to raise the mast, and here I am reversing the boat to the crane with the previous owner sitting beside me. It took us 2 tries to raise the mast. That happened because once we had raised the mast, we found out that backstay and forestay had been switched. So we had to lower the mast again and do it once more. We had one more little mishappening while raising the mast. The left side lower shroud came out of its fitting at the mast, so I had to climb the mast with the help of a crane to fit it back. It was nothing major. It started raining hard in the afternoon and the wind gusts became really nasty. We decided to take a short break and went to town to refill our fuel cans and our empty stomachs. Later in the afternoon the weather improved significantly. One of my friends and his son had to leave us. They drove our heavily loaded van to Kapellskär and took the ferry from Sweden to Estonia. The van was loaded with boat cradle, timber and all kind of materials which came with the boat.
Looks nice.
We were ready to leave by the evening, but we decided to stay in the safe marina for the night. Ivar made us a nice dinner out of different canned foods and we enjoyed the evening. Tuesday morning was nice and sunny. We made a quick breakfast and took some more photos before departure. I had mixed feelings about the boat. On one hand, she looked pretty with her fine lines, but on the other hand, everything was taped together, there was paint flaking everywhere, there were loose cap rails, and overall it looked like a total rat boat. It took some effort to start the old Volvo Penta engine, and once it started, it worked only with one cylinder in the beginning. Only after several minutes the second cylinder fired up.
So first meters. Good luck everybody.
no vana, me võtsime küll siukse afääri ette, et kuradi paneme su kannatuse proovi.
Ole hea, aita meid selle.
Tubli laevaga ilusti koju ja
hoia laeva ja meest.
kurat võtame.
Good luck. Good luck, everybody. Nice trip.
We used our engine for the first miles out of Tyrossa. The channel was narrow, there was light wind, and we had no idea about the condition of the sails nor the sailing ability of this boat. After motoring for an hour or so, we finally raised the sails. The boat performed very well, although the sails were small and the speed wasn't very high. My friend James had a freshly bought DJI Mavic Mini drone with him. We considered the weather to be perfect to test it. So we launched the drone and he took some fantastic shots of our boat. It was still holiday season in Sweden, and the waterways between these small islets were full of boats. All different kind of boats, sailboats, ferries, motorboats. In the second half of the day our course turned to the east, and this meant we had to start tacking upwind. We had only one foresail with us, and this was a very small Genoa, and the boat was really underpowered in these conditions. So when I realized that our course is taking us by the small island of Sandhamn, I quickly made a decision to stop there overnight. This gave us a chance to visit the grocery store, enjoy some nice meals, and fill our jerry cans, of course. Later in the evening we took a hiking trip on the island. Sandhamn is a really small place, but it is very lovely and we enjoyed the views. Wednesday morning was sunny but very quiet. We motored to the fuel dock and filled our jerry cans. Our plan for the day was to cross the Baltic Sea from Sweden to Finland. I had set our destination to a small island called Örö, where I had been before, and this stretch would be 115 miles approximately. As you can see, the weather was really quiet for our sail wardrobe. So we had to motor for the first couple of hours. Around midday there became wind, and we immediately raised the sails to preserve our fuel. This was more than 24-hour stretch, so we needed to arrange our watches. We didn't have a strict schedule, but we took care that at least one was sleeping all the time. Sometimes it happened that one was sailing and two were sleeping. In the evening the wind dropped again and we had to start motoring. The August night was very dark, but the sky was beautiful, full of stars, some of them falling. There is a belief that if you wish while watching the falling star, your wish will become true. So I wished, and I had an opportunity to do it several times. In the morning I found the bilge was full of water, which wasn't much of a surprise. What was a surprise was that the bilge pump was not working. I had to hold its housing with one hand while pumping with the other hand. And one more unpleasant surprise was that there were bubbles coming up from one keel bolt, which meant that there was air trapped somewhere below the waterline, and now water was filling this void. This meant that the keel should be removed once on the hard again. We made it to Öra next day by the late morning. So the 115 miles crossing had took us about 26 hours. Half of it motoring, half of it sailing. We were happy that the engine didn't let us down. This was my biggest concern, to be honest. The boat and the rigging was in good condition, but the engine, we didn't know anything about it. The rocky island of Öra has military background. It was opened for public tourism only a few years ago, so the marina is pretty fresh, built only some 5 years ago. After arrival, we informed our close persons that we are safe. Then we rented the bikes and went to discover the island. There are many military objects to see in Öra, and although none of us was a militarist, it was still interesting to see these. In the evening, Ivar cooked us a meal out of canned foods and pasta, and we had to admit it was delicious. But as we were short of kitchen utensils, we had to improvise. The night came and we fell asleep so heavy that even Ivar's snoring didn't interrupt us. In the morning we wished fair winds to our neighbors on a beautiful S&S sailboat and set our sails to Estonia, our home country. Our plan was to sail directly to Tallinn, against the headwind. The wind was strong and it was happy sailing, although I couldn't trim the sails as I would have liked. We had no winches to tension the halyards. After a few hours of sailing, the wind and waves increased so much that I decided to change our destination to Port Dirhami instead of Tallinn. This gave us opportunity to reach the port before night, and if we were lucky, even without tacking.
Siin me siis sõidame Dirhami poole.
guys were enjoying the sea, but I was honestly pretty nervous, because the boat was unknown to us. Its rigging was old. All the sheets, all the halyards, everything was old. And all the time the wind kept increasing, as were the waves. I really didn't know how the boat will hold up. The good thing was that we didn't have to reef. The sails we had were so small that the boat felt very balanced, even sailing close hauled in these strong winds. We didn't have wind gauge, but when we reached Estonian waters, I checked online for weather data. At this moment, the wind was 14-15 meters per second with gusts up to 19-20 meters per second. We finally made it to Dirhami before dark. The boat held up fine. The only damage was a piece of cap rail was lost. It was not properly fastened and one big wave tore it away. We celebrated our arrival to home country and fell into heavy sleep. Next day was rainy and winds coming from the east and still pretty strong, so we decided to stay in the marina for one more night. We just didn't feel like going out there tacking upwind in the rain. In the evening we found out that the boat had a working oven, so Ivar prepared us the best meal of the journey: baked potatoes with canned meat.
nii noh, tule.
The oven was slow and it took longer time to cook than we expected, but the outcome tasted even more delicious because of that.
Palun.
We spent our last evening of this trip on the boat and enjoyed it very much. By the next morning the weather had changed and we motored out of Dirhami to start our final leg of the journey. Soon we raised the sails and pointed our boat to east, to Tallinn, our destination. I found that the bilge was full of water again, and the bilge pump had failed completely, so we had to carry the water out with the help of a plastic bottle. In the afternoon the wind dropped, but at least it was warm. I was still pretty tired of previous night, so I took my time and had a nap in the V-berth. We arrived to Tallinn, to Kakumäe harbor, late in the afternoon. I was really happy that the boat had held up, especially in the strong winds we had on the previous leg.
Jõudsime nüüd sadamasse Eestisse.
Kodus, Kakumäel. Kas nüüd meie kodu saab olema, see on ise?
Vaevalt.
noh.
James. Vägev. Super.
The whole trip since leaving Estonia and arriving back to Estonia took us exactly 1 week. I was really happy that this affair had a happy end. The boat took us home safe and sound, And special thanks to all my friends who helped me one way or another to take this boat home. Soon there will be another episode about how we hauled the boat out and transported it to its new storage place.